Oh,
yes, this is one that's exciting. So Mercedes has announced
7-year-old Mercedes.
like we've been talking about for weeks and weeks and weeks now, Mercedes has announced that they are going to keep 2 internal combustion engines around that are important to us. One is the V8.
4-cylinder in the C63 engine.
Turbo 6-cylinder in my...
Right. Nope. So they are going to keep some of the other, but they're going to keep the V8 and they're going to keep the V12. That's the 6-liter biturbo V12. Ooh. And they're going to keep making engines for Pagani, but they've said that they're going to keep the V12 in select markets.
What's that in?
It's in all the Paganis. What car?
No.
S680 Maybach.
Yeah, a 680 Maybach.
That's it. It might be it right now. Is there an SL65 still?
No.
There's no more G65.
No.
GLS 680.
So they're making a V12 solely for the S680.
Well, but they'll come out with some other
Maybe
stuff.
they'll put in the C-Class too.
Listen, that motor, it's actually pretty impressive because that motor's been around for 20 years. Came out in 06, 05 for the SLCL and S65.
Mm-hmm. One of the great engines.
One of the great engines.
And one of the other things is that that means that they're the only manufacturer, the only German manufacturer who still has a V12 in the lab because BMW got rid of it. Audi doesn't make a W12 anymore, so like they're it.
And Bentley is out, right? So that whole Volkswagen group is lost 12-cylinder engines, right?
It's just the S580. So you want a V12, Felipe?
S680.
Whatever.
The S580 is a V8.
Yes. But isn't that amazing?
Well, I mean, it's another example of what we've been talking about day in and day out on this podcast of another automaker that's maybe a little bit cagey about committing fully to EVs. Yes. So there you go.
They are working. They said also for the V8 they're working on hybridization. So I imagine that means the C63.
Well, that makes sense. Guessing. That's a good point. This C63 was so poorly received,
and they list by everybody.
A V8 C63.
Yeah, well,
sorry, at least a V6, maybe V8.
You know what they ought to do?
Sounds like it's going to be a V8.
You know what they ought to do? V12 that C63. Throw that 6-liter in the C63. This is like when Lucid should have listened to me. Now Mercedes-Benz should listen.
We have a C43 in the office I'm looking at. They just
use the language that he would understand and tell Dieter to put his V12 in a...
Put the V12 engine back in the car. Put it in the smallest car. Big engine, small car. It's just a fantastic thing to drive.
It is a fantastic thing to drive. Actually,
make it exciting.
You know what's funny, actually? I've driven a lot of cars with that engine. I'm not in love with that engine. I hate to say it.
But it's such a cool
engine. The engine works great in the Maybach. Huayra, it is not for the Huayra.
No, the Zonda was always more excited because it had that naturally aspirated punch, thump. It's like you don't want to wait for the wind, which it's ironically named after. Like that's not the...
The engine is not intended for a supercar. It's intended for high-speed Autobahn cruising. It works great in an S680. It works great in an S65 and an SL65. In a Huayra, which is supposed to be a high-performance sports car, it's an engine where you put your foot down and go high speeds, not necessarily you accelerate very quickly. It's
not
for
athletic.
Sustained. It's not athletic. It's heavy, and it feels heavy.
Substantial.
I love the powertrain, but... It works. I drove it in the SL65 Black Series also, and it's not the best motor in that car either.
It makes sense because that car is so hardcore in every other regard, and then the engine is, and the transmission is not the fastest.
It's not the fastest. Right. That's exactly right.
It's GT focus, turbine like. It's like a jet engine. It's a jet engine in a commercial aircraft. It just builds and builds and builds. Yep. And in a sports car, what you want is a fighter jet, and it's just
that's exactly right.
Can I connect 2 stories?
Oh.
When we just talk about
Valentino
Lucid.
Rossi, they're going to put the V12 in his motorbike.
Dang,
one of Lucid's announcements a year or 2 ago was that they were going to provide Aston Martin with electric motors. Yeah, Aston Martin has since said they're not going to, but now Aston Martin could buy some V12s.
Well, yeah, and Aston Martin's already, this engine is already in Aston Martin vehicles.
I thought there was no more V12 Aston. No,
well, they make the V8. The V8 isn't the V8 Vantage. It's this V8.
So maybe they'll put a V12.
It's good news for Aston Martin. That's great. But nonetheless, I'm thrilled to see V8s and V12s sticking around.
Are you ready for your next cool car? Sell your enthusiast car on Cars and Bids. Trading in your car to dealers means you aren't getting the market value for your car, leaving you with less cash for your next fun car. Just look at our recent sales of these cool cars compared to trade-in values. This was a trade-in offer, and this was the Cars and Bids result. This is a trade-in offer, and this is the Cars and Bids result. This was a trade-in offer, and this was the Cars and Bids result. Get started now and sell your car on carsandbids.com and join the best community to sell your enthusiast car.